Mike London and Heather Foord, this is National 9 News.
Rail disaster inquiry stalls. Black box was turned off.
Passengers tell of a horror ride as the train picked up speed.
Canberra commits more firepower to the Gulf. Good evening.
Evening.
Authorities are concerned the investigation into Sydney's train disaster may be hampered even before it's properly underway. Much hope was pinned on the so-called black box, which should have recorded vital details, such as the speed the train was travelling. But even though there was one on board, it was switched off.
A floodlit night after what had been a black day, and heavy cranes prepared to lift the two carriages that had crashed onto their sides. Rescuers feared they might find more bodies under the wreckage. Instead, the toll was revised down to 8, the last of the victims finally removed early this morning. By day, the scale of the disaster was still sinking in.
We've lost a driver who was there in the front line doing his job. We've lost people going to work, going to enrol in courses. It's a terrible tragedy.
With all the forensic evidence gathered, the inquiry led by Supreme Court Judge Peter McInerney will try to piece together how, after leaving Waterfall Station, the Tangara flew from its rails and smashed into a sandstone cliff. Today, as the buckled carriages were slowly hauled to a nearby siding, the Premier promised a swift and thorough investigation.
An inquiry that's effectively a royal commission.
While still refusing to speculate on a cause, investigators are already focusing on possible mechanical failure. Of crucial importance are reports from survivors that there was a sudden increase in speed moments before the train careered off the track. It was hoped answers would come from the Tangara's black box data logger. In fact, the recorder was fitted 2 weeks ago, but because it was still to be tested and trialled, it was switched off. Rail unions say if the train was speeding, it wouldn't have been the fault of the driver.
27 years experience, very well respected in his depot. Not someone that would take unnecessary risks.
Brad Schmitt, National 9 News.
Whatever the inquiries uncover, they won't answer the one question being asked by those who lost their loved ones. Why did it happen to them? Well, today, some told how they're coping with their loss, as those who survived replay the ordeal over and over.
Haney Bishai was one of the passengers, one of the survivors of that fateful train ride. The memories of the crash, as you'd expect, don't sit well.
Suddenly, in a couple of seconds, he saw the train just flipped over, and that's it. That's all you can't even think what was happening. Everyone was like in a shock, and they were just looking at each other and screaming, oh, what happened? You know, it's pretty bad, you know, like you saw this with your own eyes, you know.
45 minutes later, among the confusion and the pain, the ambulance officers arrived, and it's a sight he'll never forget.
It was pretty scary. You saw this with your own eyes. Like, it's a miracle. God helped you to survive it, you know. If without that, you would have been dead by now.
For Narelle Emery and her sister Cheryl, the last 24 hours have also been torture.
It's chaos. It's, yeah. If it happened to you, you know, but it's us.
They weren't on the train, but were waiting for their mum Christina and dad James to arrive at Wollongong Station when they heard there'd been a horrible accident. For the rest of the day and all of last night, there were desperate calls but no answers. At 10 o'clock this morning, the hospital finally got in touch.
When I had a quick look, I knew it was my mum. And yeah, she's alive, and that's all that matters.
Their 53-year-old father, though, is missing, and his 5 daughters fear he's one of 8 who didn't make it.
Just thinking of him.
There are a number of other families throughout Sydney waiting for similar news, but with DNA evidence required in some cases for identification, it could be a process that takes days, possibly weeks.
Just have to wait, and it won't be over for a long time.
Karl Stefanovic, National 9 News.
Now, the Queen has sent her condolences to the victims of the crash. In a letter to the Governor-General, she conveyed her sympathies to those who had family and friends in the disaster and wished a full and speedy recovery to the injured, especially those still in hospital.